Hey everybody, EchoV here, and it's been almost a month since the release of Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, and with a new Pokémon game comes a new gimmick. And besides the terrestrial phenomenon, which gives Pokémon new typings, another new thing was added: Paradox Pokémon. These group of Pokémon are split into either ancient or futuristic relatives of existing Pokémon that we know of, and as such, these groups of Pokémon have caught the attention of many, and just like any Pokémon, people have had opinions about them, whether good or bad, and I thought, why not share some of them myself? So anyway, here we go! First off, let's start with the ancient Paradox Pokémon from Pokémon Scarlet, and first up is Great Tusk. And I just want to say, as the flagship Paradox Pokémon first introduced, along with its Violet counterpart, Great Tusk looks really awesome. I love its Great Tusk, and I see the spikes along its trunk area and tufts of hair on its legs, as well as the giant tail look really nice. The only thing that I don't like about it is its jack-o'-lantern mount. Otherwise, it's a solid 9 out of 10. If we're going by Pokédex order, Screamtail is next, and I'm not a big fan of this one. I'll talk more about why in a little bit because it shares this characteristic with a few other ancient Pokémon, but basically to sum it up, Screamtail is a Jigglypuff with a weird ponytail, as well as some teeth and clawed feet, just so it can say, "Hey, I'm an ancient Pokémon! Rawr!" Yeah, not a big fan. 4 out of 10. Next up is Brute Bonnet, and compared to regular Amoonguss, I like this one slightly better. I like the swampy design of its mushroom head, as well as how angry it looks compared to Amoonguss' gay face. I just think that the spikes on its head, along with its stubby legs, are a little weird. Also, who saw this thing and said, "Yep, it's totally a dinosaur"? Because it's bad enough that dinosaur studios already have issues with inaccurate dinosaurs. Please don't add it by saying a mushroom is a dinosaur. Either way, Brute Bonnet's really good, but it's a 6 out of 10 for me. Next up is Fluttermane, and again, just like Screamtail, I have issues with this thing. But let's just get away from that for a while and talk about Fluttermane itself. This thing is basically a mischievous with a bad hair day. The only thing that I do like are its angry looking eyes. Other than that, it's not that great. Fluttermane's head spikes are just a bit too much. Also, just like with Brute Bonnet, who saw this thing and thought it was a pterosaur? Come on! This looks nothing like an Aerodactyl! Honestly, out of all the ancient Paradox Pokemon, or just the Paradox Pokemon in general, Fluttermane is my least favorite. 2 out of 10. Next up is Slitherine. Oops, I mean Slitherwing, and this one is honestly really good. While it's not too different from regular Volcarona, I mean, it's basically a Volcarona on the ground, but I like how it resembles a moss on the ground with its wings up. I think it's pretty decent, as well as making the wings look like spikes. I'd say 7 out of 10 is good enough, don't you think? Yeah, 7 out of 10 is good. Next up is Sandy Shocks, and this thing is wild. With how it looks, mostly thanks to the iron fillings, it looks like a heavy metal rocker, which is kinda cool looking, honestly. I also like how its magnets were made to be longer to resemble legs, but at the same time, it looks a bit weird. The chain feels a nice touch though. If I had to nitpick, however, it would be on how a Steel-type Pokemon can get an ancient form. Yeah, I get that Magneton wasn't always a Steel-type, which is why it has one, but still, it's a little weird. Either way, I'd say Sandy Shocks is gonna be in the middle ground with a 5 out of 10. Actually, before we move on, I need to rant a bit. A lot of people say that Pokemon Violet got the short end of the stick when it came to its Paradox forms, but at least all the Violet Paradox forms are from fully evolved Pokemon. 3 of the ones in Scarlet aren't. Yeah, I get in our real world, we didn't notice Pokemon ever get evolutions until their evolution debuted, save for Jigglypuff anyway, but in the Pokemon world, These Pokemon have always been able to evolve, so what gives? It doesn't make sense on how some of the Paradox forms in Scarlet are from not fully evolved Pokemon. Anyway, rant over, let's move on. And wrapping up the Scarlet Paradox forms is Roaring Moon, and this one is just amazing. I love how colorful it is, and I love how feathery its wings look. Originally, I wasn't a big fan of Salamence's wings turning feathery for its Paradox form, but seeing it now, it actually pulls it off really well. I also love how Roaring Moon doesn't lose any of Salamence's draconic design, which I can really appreciate. Without a doubt, Roaring Moon is a 10 out of 10. Heck, maybe even a 12 out of 10. You know what? Forget it. It's my video. 20 out of 10. 100 out of 10. That's how amazing this thing is. Before we begin, I need to address something real quick. A lot of you might expect me to hate the Violet forms, mostly because a lot of them are just blank but robot, but that's not really the case, or at least now anyway. If Iron Tread's entry says to go by, then I can see why a lot of them are just robotic Pokemon. Mally complains that all of them use the Iron prefix, which is kinda lazy in my opinion. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get to ranking. First up is Iron Treads, and I gotta say, I actually like this a little bit more than Great Tusk, mostly because its wheel-like design actually resembles a wheel in this form, as well as the fact that it actually reminds me of a tank tread, which is kinda cool in my opinion. Either way, whether you prefer Great Tusk or Iron Treads, I think both designs for Donphan's Paradox forms are really good. So, just like Great Tusk, Iron Treads gets a solid 9 out of 10. Next up is Iron Button. Oh my god, I like this thing more than original Delibird. I like how its feet resemble skis, as well as how its sacks turn into a orb-like tail. Much better than the little bag butt the original Delibird has. Also, Delibird's finally good, so there's that too. So, Iron Button, you might look weird, but you are a massive improvement over the original Delibird. So 8 out of 10. Next up is Iron Hands, and this thing looks amazing. Honestly, I never did like the original Hariyama, so seeing this only makes me wish that this was the original Hariyama itself. The independently floating hands are what really makes this a great design in my opinion. Its dex entry is kinda creepy though. But either way, Iron Hands, 9 out of 10. Next is Iron Jugulis, and even though it's just a robotic Hydreigon, I honestly like this design a lot. It actually reminds me of how Hydreigons are supposed to have tank-like designs, so this is a nice callback to it. 7 out of 10. Next is Iron Moss, and oh my goodness, they spoiled Volcarona. I like how its wings are separate from one another and can join together to form a sun-like design. One of the best ones without a doubt, without changing too much of the original Pokemon. Easy 10 out of 10. Next is Iron Thorns, and any reference to Mechagodzilla is welcome here. I don't care if it's just a mechanical Tyranitar, it is a Mechagodzilla reference way better than Duraludon. Alright, 10 out of 10, without a doubt. And lastly is Iron Valiant, and this one is also amazing. To pull inspiration from both Gardevoir and Gallade and combine them to one new Pokemon, when Game Freak could have easily just chosen one of them to base this design from, is pretty awesome in my book. Easy 100 out of 10, just like Roaring Moon. And lastly are the box art legendaries for the game. Koraidon and Miraidon. I mean, they are technically the past and future form of Cyclizar respectively, so I'm counting them anyway. And both of them get a 10 out of 10. Unlike the other box art legendaries we've had in the past, I don't really have a preference for any of them. They both represent their past/future gimmick really well, and they both play a part in the story much better than the previous ones who only appeared at the climax of their game's story. So, I don't really have a preference over them. They both do the job really well, so that's why they get a 10 out of 10. And that's it for this video. What are your thoughts on these new Paradox Pokemon, as well as the box art legendaries? Comment below! Yeah, I know, these games have issues such as frame rates and glitches, but still a fun game regardless, with a lot to offer, and it's not unplayable because of this, unlike other games, might I say. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. If it's your birthday today, then happy birthday, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye everyone, be good to each other.